process of restructuring that will change the way local government is organized in a county containing nearly 10 million people is now underway in earnest. Last year, voters in Los Angeles County, the most populous county in the country, decided to create a new executive office to oversee the entire government. The new role, which will likely be one of the most powerful positions in local government anywhere in the U.S., is sure to draw plenty of interest. Here with us now to dive deeper on this, we have NewsNation political contributor Kurt Bardella. Kurt, always good to see you. Okay, this sounds like a pretty big deal. Walk me through this role. What is it?
Yeah, it is a big deal. And I'll tell you, I came up in California politics. My first job was actually at a county board of supervisors office as an intern way back when in Southern California. Counties in California carry a tremendous amount of power and authority because so much of the land is not in quote incorporated city. So the jurisdiction of things like public safety, public health, land development end up being decided by the county board of supervisors. In California, those are comprised of 5 elected officials. So it only takes 3 votes to get anything done in a county in California. That's incredibly powerful. What they're talking about now is appointing a new position that would ultimately become an elected position that the voters would vote on that could have potentially major authority that would even override the county board of supervisors. And this is something we've not seen before at this level in California. And when you talk about land, a region as large as Southern California, 10 million people live there, this one new figure would have authority over the budget, which is billions of dollars, over the land use, over public safety, over education issues, over healthcare. It is a massive portfolio. And since it's never been done before, they're constructing the authority on the fly. So whoever does this first is really going to set a lot of precedent for years to come.
Yeah, I was looking into this. It said this one person would look over the county's nearly $50 million budget. They would also, be involved in hiring and firing. Why have just one person do this massive role?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that there were those who felt who it was initially called, I think it was Measure G is what passed and created this position in the first place. The idea that, well, there should be an accountable person in the way that cities have mayors or states have governors. They were looking at that at the county level because, again, LA County uniquely being such a large county with such broad jurisdiction, there was the idea that there should be a focal point for this executive role that could be ultimately held accountable and could be voted on by the voters. I think those who are on the other side of this say that sounds nice, but in actuality, it creates a myriad of consequences and questions that we've never seen before. Again, what happens when the county votes 4-1 to do something, but this executive goes, I don't feel like doing that, so I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm wondering. I mean, what kind of oversight will this one person have?
And that's the million-dollar question will be what happens when you have those standoffs between the elected county board of supervisors and then the person who ultimately is first appointed, but then ultimately elected by the voters to be this chief executive of the county. I suspect a lot of this will end up being litigated. Like this person will make a decision. The other side of it will go, well, you don't have the authority to do that. Let's figure it out in court and find out what the constitutionality is of what your powers are and what checks and balances remain in place.
Does this not only further complicate things, maybe add even more red tape to the bureaucracy of it all?
Yeah, I think that this is ultimately going to have a tremendous amount of unintended consequences in that space, a lot of uncertainty. Again, the county board of supervisors is supposed to be nonpartisan. This isn't about red or blue or Republican or Democrat. Traditionally speaking, again, the things that govern counties really don't have anything to do with traditional partisan political issues. But when you have a figurehead that is more like a mayor or a governor, things get very politicized very quickly. And I think that the concern is ultimately even the most minute issues at the local government level will become super politicized and partisan because of this position.
Okay, all right. I think they've still got a few years before this position would be elected, so we'll see what happens there. But Kurt Bardella, always appreciate the conversation. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.